Hi, well, here we are again. And this week I want to talk to you a little bit about how this week 9 performance works. There's a spot in week 7 to tell you what group you are in. Well, you can't know what group you're in because you haven't signed up for it yet. So what you need to do is go back to week 6, look at the sign up icon for signing up for your practice speeches and choose one of the 2 times that's available that will work for you and sign up for it. Then later this week I will put you into the groups and you will know what your group is. So we'll try to work it that way and see how it works. Because the class is small, there are only going to be 2 opportunities for you to do your practice speech, and hopefully most of you will be able to make one or the other of those opportunities. So what we're talking about today is the rough draft outline that you should be working on by now, how to do an outline, what is included, and so forth. In your textbook, there is a good explanation of how a speech outline works, and I think you can rely on that. But here are some tips very quickly that will maybe make the outline process a little easier. First of all, a good speech outline probably has about 3 main points. So when you're thinking about your subject, doing your research, and finding out what you want to talk about, you should probably zero in on, there are about 3 things I want my audience to understand at the end of this speech. And those 3 things become your 3 main points. Then, how am I going to develop those main points? And that becomes a process of deciding what you're going to include in your main points, what you're going to use as supporting material, which is another part of the chapter on research, how you're going to put your material into those 3 main points that you're going to make. So you may have a main point that says something like Holstein cows, to use my own example. What am I going to tell my audience about Holstein cows? Well, first of all, I'm going to tell them that they are the biggest of the 3 dairy breeds. I'm going to tell them that they are the highest milk producers of the 3 dairy breeds. And I'm going to tell them that their milk is the lowest in butter fat, lowest in nutrients of the 3 dairy breeds. So there are my subpoints. The Holstein, Friesian cow, description, production, and quality. So now I have main points and subpoints. If I have time in my speech, I may want to use some examples. Certainly, to be interesting, I want to use some examples. So I want to say something like, the Holstein is the biggest of the 3 dairy breeds. When I was in school, I was a member of a 4-H organization, and I showed Holstein cattle at county fairs and so on and so forth. And at the time I was in high school, most of the cattle that I showed were taller than I was. The Holstein can be a large animal. So there's just an example that gives you your audience a little bit clearer idea of what you're doing. You may want to use some statistics of the dairy cattle in the United States today. Here's the percentage that are Holsteins. And you may talk about that. In my sample speech, I talk about percentage of butter fat. I talk about volume of production and that kind of thing with statistics. So there are lots of things to put into your speech that help it be more interesting to your audience and more authoritative to them. And that's what you should be working toward. Um, Much of this is explained in the lectures and in the textbook, and so I'm not going to labor the point too much. But what you should have at the end of this week is a rough outline of the speech that you are going to ultimately give. You should have your main points figured out, you should have your supporting material plugged in, and then you should be ready for during week 8 to work on your visuals. Needless to say, in order to get that outline together and get your supporting material plugged in and stuff, you're going to have your research done. And that's going to be your most time-consuming aspect of this week's assignment, is to get those articles that you're going to use as research, get them read, get the material out of them that you want to use in your speech, and get that ready to go. So, having said that, the important thing for this week is that you sign up for your speaking time. The sign-up time is in week 6, and you'll have to go back and access that. I will not close week 6 so that you can get back to it. And then when you have determined a sign-up time and sent it to me, I will put you into your groups and I will get the group lists back to you. So for this week, those are your tasks.